Welcome to The Deep Dive. This is a Prime AI podcast brought to you by the folks at Silicon and Silk.
Great to be here.
Welcome to The Deep Dive. We're here to explore some interesting material and pull out the key insights for you, nice and quick. Today, we're diving into a challenge that's, well, probably very familiar if you run an online clothing store. How do you actually boost sales? Specifically, how do you get customers putting more in their cart in one go? And crucially, how do you do that without constantly slashing prices with discounts? And protect those profit margins.
Exactly. The material we've got for this deep dive really zeroes in on this specific problem for fashion e-commerce, and it presents a particular type of solution. So our mission today is to unpack what this source material tells us about lifting that average order value, the AOV, but importantly, doing it in a way that actually helps profitability instead of, chipping away at it.
Yeah, because let's face it, if you're selling clothes online, you know the struggle. Getting that first click, that conversion, that's tough enough. But getting someone to add that second or third item without flashing a big 10% off banner, that feels even harder sometimes. And those discounts, well, they hit your margin straight away.
Absolutely. AOV isn't just some vanity metric in e-commerce. It's really fundamental if you want to scale profitably. If you can get more value from each transaction from customers you've already got, well, you don't have to keep spending marketing money finding new people just to grow your revenue. Getting more from existing customers, that's like gold dust.
Okay, so AOV is critical. We get that. And the usual tactics are, bundle deals, maybe some upsells, pushing for that free shipping threshold. They can lift AOV, right? But what's the catch?
Well, the catch, like you said, is they almost always have a cost attached that eats into your profit. Discounts, they directly lower the margin on whatever you sold. Free shipping thresholds means you're footing the bill for delivery. Again, that reduces your net revenue, your profit on that specific order. So yeah, you might see higher AOV numbers, but you often lose out on the margin percentage. It's a really common trade-off.
And then there's the other big issue, especially for online fashion, the returns. The return rate is just notoriously high.
Oh yeah, this is a huge drain on profits for apparel stores. The material we looked at really highlights how much returns actually cost. We're talking estimates, but they often fall somewhere between, say, $20 and $45 per return.
Wow, per item return.
Per return instance, yeah. That covers things like the return shipping, the handling, inspection, restocking, or maybe even having to liquidate the item if it can't be resold as new. It's just pure cost. It comes right off your bottom line.
And what's the main reason for those returns in fashion? Is there one big culprit?
Overwhelmingly, yeah. It's usually about poor fit. The sizing was off, or maybe the cut just didn't look like they expected from the pictures online.
Which brings us right back to the shopper, doesn't it? You're browsing, you see something you really like, but then that little doubt creeps in. Is that actually going to fit me? What size should I really order? That hesitation, it makes you pause. Maybe you just buy the one thing instead of two. Or maybe you skip that nice jacket and just get a t-shirt because, sizing feels less risky. That hesitation definitely puts a cap on the initial order value.
And that's exactly where the source material brings in its main focus. It talks about a specific tool designed to tackle this problem, like head on. It's called Prime AI Size Finder.
Prime AI Size Finder. Okay. So if the old ways push AOV using discounts or eating shipping costs, this Size Finder thing takes a different path.
Totally different angle.
Yeah.
Instead of using price adjustments to incentivize buying more, its main approach is to boost AOV by tackling that shopper uncertainty we were just talking about. It's all about building shopper confidence. Confidence that the clothes they're looking at will actually fit them.
Confidence and fit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that confidence somehow gets people to spend more. How does that actually work? What's the mechanism?
Well, it's pretty intuitive if you put yourself in the customer's shoes. If you feel pretty sure that the item you've already picked will fit, you're probably going to feel a lot more comfortable adding something else. You might think, okay, this shirt sounds like it'll fit great, so maybe I will get those pants that go with it. Or you might feel safer choosing that slightly more expensive dress you like, but we're kind of nervous about the sizing.
Ah, okay. So the confidence just removes the barrier, makes it easier to add more stuff or more valuable stuff to the cart. What specific changes in shopper behavior does the source material mention seeing?
It points to a few key things. Shoppers seem more willing to buy like whole outfits at once or to go for those higher priced items they might have skipped before because of the fit risk. And importantly, it helps curb those behaviors that are just killers for profit, like that buy two, try one thing.
Oh, yeah. Where someone buys the same shirt in medium and large just to see which fits, planning to send one back all along.
Exactly that. Or bracketing, which is pretty similar, ordering maybe multiple sizes or even slightly different styles, fully intending to return most of them. What the tool does is guide the customer towards the single size that's most likely to be right for them. By helping them nail the size the first time, it reduces that need to order extras just in case.
Right, because if they actually trust the size recommendation, they don't need to hedge their bets by ordering multiples. That must make a difference to the real AOV, the one you keep after all the returns are processed.
Precisely. With bracketing, the initial order value might look impressive, but the kept AOV, the one that matters, is way lower. By getting the fit right up front, the tool helps make sure that the higher AOV you see at checkout is much more likely to stick. The source mentioned one example, actually, where a retailer saw 20% fewer orders containing multiple sizes of the same item after they started using it. That's a direct hit on a really costly habit.
20% fewer multi-size orders. That's significant. And overall, what kind of AOV lift are we talking about here? What does the material say retailers typically see?
The material suggests that retailers using this Prime AI size finder have seen their AOV go up by around 15% on average.
15% AOV lift. Okay, that sounds good. But you mentioned earlier how traditional AOV boosters often damage margins. So this is where that crucial margin advantage you mentioned comes in. How is this 15% boost different when it comes to profit?
Yeah, this is probably the most important point the source makes, actually. When you lift AOV using discounts or by covering shipping, sure, you get more revenue per order, but your gross profit margin, the percentage on those items, it goes down. You're essentially, buying that extra revenue, but at a lower profit rate.
Okay, right.
But with Size Finder, the AOV increase happens because customers are adding more items or higher value items because they're confident about the fit. And crucially, these extra items, they're sold at full price. This means your gross profit margin percentage stays healthy. It might even improve if they choose higher margin products. And the total gross profit dollars you make per order goes up significantly right alongside the AOV.
Okay, I think I get it. So if a customer trusts the size guide and adds, say, a $100 pair of jeans to their $40 top, you get the full margin profit on that $100. That's way better for the bottom line than just giving them 10% off the whole order to nudge them over some spending threshold.
Exactly right. It's more revenue per order and it's more profit per order because you haven't had to erode your margins to get it. And believe it or not, that's only half the benefit.
The other half must be the returns, right?
Yes. The massive cost of returns we talked about earlier. By getting the fit right more often, the tool drastically cuts down the return volume. The source material mentions common return reductions anywhere from 20% up to 40%. That's huge. And every single return you avoid means you keep the revenue from that sale instead of losing it to a refund. Plus, you avoid those $20, $45 processing costs.
Wow. Okay, so you're not just adding full price sales on the front end, you're also stopping money leaking out the back end through fewer returns.
Precisely. It's a double whammy for profitability. The combined effect, higher AOV from full price sales and big savings from fewer returns, has a really powerful impact on net profit. The source material even suggests that the tool can be self-funding. The idea is that the extra revenue from the AOV lift plus the savings from avoided returns can often be more than the actual cost of the tool itself.
Huh. That's quite a claim. A tool that essentially pays for itself just by making customers feel more confident and reducing headaches like returns.
Yeah, it's framed as a high ROI approach that tackles two massive profitability challenges in fashion e-commerce at the same time. Getting more value per order and cutting down on those costly operational drains like returns.
Okay, let's try and compare this then. How does this size finder approach stack up against other common ways online clothing stores try to boost AOV? How does that margin protection piece really compare?
This is where you really see the difference, I think. If you look at most strategies retailers use to increase AOV, almost all of them somehow end up nibbling away at your profit margin.
Like running a promotion, spend $150, get 15% off. That's pretty standard.
Right. You'll probably get that higher AOV, sure. But you've explicitly cut the price of the items sold. Your margin percentage takes a direct hit. Size Finder lifts AOV, but because it's driven by fit confidence, those items are sold at list price. Your margin percentage is protected, and your actual profit dollars per order go up.
Okay. What about something maybe less direct, like offering free shipping if you spend, say, over $75?
Oh yeah, that definitely works to lift AOV. People will add stuff just to avoid the shipping fee. But now you, the retailer, you're paying for that shipping. That's a real cost subtracted directly from a profit you make on that order. With Size Finder, you get the AOV lift without taking on that extra shipping cost. And like we said, you actually reduce other hidden costs, like the cost of shipping returns back.
So it sounds like both discounts and free shipping thresholds basically mean the retailer has to subsidize the higher order value somehow.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, you're essentially trading some profitability to get that higher revenue number. SizeFinder aims to avoid that trade-off entirely.
What about things like product recommendations? Suggesting items that go together, or maybe a more premium alternative. That doesn't involve discounts. Does it work the same way?
Product recommendations are definitely useful for discovery, and yeah, they can lift AOV. But the source material points out a key difference. Recommendation engines alone don't fix that core anxiety about fit and fashion. A customer might see a great recommendation for a jacket, but if they're thinking, but will it actually fit me? They might still hesitate or just not add it. SizeFinder works by removing that specific barrier. By giving them confidence in the fit of the first item, it makes them more open to any recommendation, another item, an accessory, maybe even a more expensive version. So in a way, it helps your other AOV tools work better because it tackles that root cause of hesitation for clothing shoppers.
Okay, that makes sense. So it kind of greases the wheels for other strategies by giving the customer the confidence to actually click add to cart on those recommendations.
Exactly. It addresses that fundamental friction point first.
And loyalty programs, how do they fit in?
Loyalty programs are more about long-term value. They encourage repeat business, which can indirectly lift AOV over time as customers become more comfortable with the brand. But they often work by offering future rewards or discounts, which again implies some kind of future margin giveback. And results take time to build up. SizeFinder impacts the immediate transaction, right here, right now, in this shopping session. It gives instant value with that fit guidance. There's no deferred cost or promise of a future discount.
And last one, flash sales, limited time offers. They definitely seem to drive big orders quickly.
Oh, they absolutely create urgency and can spike AOV, no doubt. But they almost always rely on pretty steep markdowns or bundling with heavily discounted items. That's usually pretty bad for margins. Plus, they're temporary fixes. They can even train customers to only buy when there's a big sale on. SizeFinder is designed to work consistently, day in, day out, improving the baseline performance of your store without resorting to those kinds of promotional tactics that can erode your pricing power or even damage your brand image if you're always on sale.
Okay, so if I'm summarizing that comparison, it seems like most AOV strategies focus on persuading the customer using price levers, or by the retailer absorbing costs. Whereas this SizeFinder approach is more about empowering the customer, removing friction, and adding real value through fit confidence.
That's definitely the key takeaway from how the source material positions it. It's presented as a much more sustainable, margin-friendly way to grow AOV.
Okay, this sounds pretty compelling, especially for anyone listening who runs an online clothing store. Now, the source material mentioned there are actually a couple of versions of this tool, SizeFinder Lite and SizeFinder Pro. How would someone figure out which one is the right fit? No pun intended this time.
Haha, nice recovery. Yes, Prime AI offers these two tiers, Lite and Pro. They're really designed for different business needs, different scales.
Let's start with SizeFinder Lite. Who's that aimed at?
SizeFinder Lite is really all about speed, simplicity, and ease of access. It's probably ideal for, say, smaller retailers, especially if you're on a platform like Shopify, or really for any business that just wants to quickly test out the impact of offering fit guidance without a lot of fuss or upfront investment. It's built for super fast deployment. The source mentioned it can be installed and actually running on a Shopify store in just minutes. No coding needed.
Minutes? Seriously? That sounds almost too easy.
It's designed to be pretty much turnkey, yeah. Lite uses a more, let's say, standardized AI model. It gives recommendations based on pretty basic customer info, height, weight, maybe general body shape, but you can start seeing results almost immediately. The material highlighted an average conversion rate bump of about plus 3% right from day one for Shopify stores using the Lite version.
Okay. And is it risky to try?
Yeah, very low risk. For basic use, the Lite version is actually free. Setting it up is easy, and importantly, if for some reason you felt it wasn't quite right for your specific products or customers, taking it down is also really simple. It doesn't mess with your pricing or your inventory or anything like that. It's really positioned as a low-risk way to grab some quick wins on conversion and maybe AOV just by making things easier for the customer.
Okay, so Lite equals fast, easy, good for testing, quick wins, maybe for smaller setups. What about SizeFinder Pro? Who needs the Pro version?
SizeFinder Pro is geared towards businesses that are looking for, well, maximum accuracy and really deep personalization. They likely want to use advanced AI as more of a strategic tool, maybe for a competitive edge. Think larger brands, maybe multi-brand retailers or stores that have really complex sizing, perhaps inconsistent sizing across different product lines.
And what makes it Pro? What's different under the hood?
Pro is a custom-built AI solution. So Prime AI actually develops specific AI models that are trained on your particular products, right down to the SKU level. It integrates much more deeply with your business data, too, pulling from your ERP system, your CRM, your historical sales figures, and critically, your returns data. It learns directly from how your actual customers behave and how your specific products perform in the real world.
Using the historical data, especially returns data, sounds really powerful.
It really is. That allows the AI to get incredibly precise. It can learn subtle things like maybe how a specific fabric tends to stretch, or if one particular size of a certain style gets returned way more often than others. And that level of customization usually leads to even better results. Pro users typically see performance at the higher end of those ranges we talked about. Conversion lifts maybe in the high single digits, AOV increases hitting that 10-15% mark consistently, and return reductions potentially reaching 35% or even higher.
And presumably the customer experience is more personalized too.
Oh, definitely. With all that integrated data, Pro can often provide what they call a zero-input experience for customers who've shopped with you before. The system recognizes them, it knows their past purchases, maybe their return history, and it can make a highly confident size recommendation without even needing to ask for their height or weight again. That's a really smooth, frictionless experience for a returning shopper.
Gotcha. So the trade-off for getting that higher impact and deeper personalization is likely a bigger investment, more setup and integration work compared to Lite.
Exactly. Pro requires more integration effort, and it typically comes with a subscription cost. You usually get dedicated support too, like an account manager. But for businesses where that kind of uplift in conversion, AOV, and especially return reduction translates into really substantial revenue and profit gains, well, the investment makes clear financial sense. It's more of a long-term strategic decision to leverage predictive AI to solve that core fit problem really effectively at scale.
So thinking about it, a business could potentially start with Lite, maybe validate the concept, see some initial positive results, and then decide to upgrade to Pro later to unlock the maximum customized benefits.
Absolutely. That sounds like a very common path. Start simple, prove the value and the ROI for your specific business, and then scale up the investment to maximize the impact.
All right, let's start to wrap up this deep dive then. What are the absolute must-know key takeaways from the source material we've dug into about Prime AI's Size Finder and how it impacts fashion e-commerce profitability?
Okay, I think the core message is that this Size Finder tool is presented as a really effective and actually relatively low-effort way for online clothing stores to increase their average order value.
Right. And crucially, unlike a lot of the traditional methods, it does this while also protecting and even improving profit margins. That seems key. It achieves this mainly by tackling that super expensive returns problem and by driving more full-price sales.
Exactly. The data highlighted in the material points to some pretty tangible results. AOV increases typically around 10-15%, noticeable bumps in conversion rates, and quite significant drops in returns, often quoted in the 20-35% reduction range.
And the source definitely makes a strong case for the ROI, suggesting the tool can often end up paying for itself just through that mix of more revenue coming in and fewer costs going out due to returns.
Yeah, and implementation, especially if you start with the Lite version, is designed to be quick and low risk. That makes it pretty accessible for a wide range of businesses. I think its main differentiator really is that it aims to boost AOV by adding genuine customer value, that confidence and fit, rather than just eroding your profitability with discounts or eating shipping costs.
So, thinking about all this, especially how much returns actually cost, and that constant pressure to discount that exists in online fashion, here's maybe a final thought for you to ponder. Could focusing on these really fundamental customer experience factors, like just making sure the clothes are likely to fit before someone even buys them, could that actually be the most sustainable, the most profitable way forward for online clothing brands? Maybe the real competition isn't just about who has the biggest discount this week, but about who can give customers the most confidence to buy exactly what they love, knowing it's actually going to fit when it arrives.
It certainly makes you think differently, doesn't it? Shifting the focus perhaps from just price wars towards building genuine trust and value.